For most of the world, this day begins like any other. Cities wake up slowly beneath the rising sun. But high above the planet, satellites quietly scan every movement. Hidden signals begin to move through intelligence networks. Analysts notice patterns they have seen before. Small events that rarely mean anything alone suddenly begin to connect, and somewhere in the world, the first domino quietly falls. Life continues normally in the cities of the world. Millions of people walk through streets without knowing what is unfolding behind the scenes. History shows that major wars rarely announce themselves loudly. Instead, it begins quietly in political meetings and encrypted messages. The warning signs have already begun to appear. Inside military bases around the world, activity slowly increases. Aircraft technicians run final checks on advanced fighter jets. Pilots receive briefings that are unusually serious. Orders are short, precise, and urgent. Experienced soldiers recognize the difference between routine and escalation. The clock toward the next phase has already started ticking. Far from the public eye, naval forces begin repositioning. Aircraft carriers silently change course. Escort destroyers form tight defensive formations. Helicopters scan surrounding sea lanes. Commanders receive simple but significant instructions. Remain ready. Large military machines shift quietly across the planet. Inside intelligence headquarters, tension begins to grow. Large digital maps display real-time activity across multiple regions. Satellite feeds update every few seconds. Analysts connect unusual military movements. Individually, they seem normal, but together, they form a dangerous pattern. The realization slowly spreads across the room. Hundreds of miles away, armored convoys begin moving. Heavy transport trucks carry equipment toward forward bases. Soldiers sit silently inside armored vehicles. Orders remain classified, and destinations are rarely explained. The scale suggests something much larger than an exercise. Across multiple regions, similar convoys begin appearing. Eyes in the sky begin watching every border and coastline. High-altitude drones glide silently above strategic regions. Advanced sensors scan for troop movements and missile activity. Small changes appear across monitored areas. Movements not scheduled suddenly appear on radar screens. Each signal adds another piece to a growing, alarming puzzle. Missile defense systems move into operational positions. Large radar arrays sweep the sky for threats. Specialized units deploy around strategic installations. These weapons are rarely placed on high alert without cause. Commanders prefer preparation over surprise. The machines that protect entire cities now stand ready. Massive cargo aircraft lift into the air, their destinations classified. They carry the backbone of modern military logistics, supplies, vehicles, and advanced equipment. Air corridors fill with activity. Flight trackers notice unusual patterns. Speculation slowly begins spreading across global media. News organizations receive fragments of information. Political leaders arrive at secure compounds. Motorcades move faster than usual. Inside, emergency briefings are already underway. Advisors carry updated intelligence summaries. No one is ready to use the words the world fears most, but everyone understands the danger. Crises become global when leaders run out of time, options, and trust. Secure communication lines carry a surge of encrypted traffic. Every message is timed, coded, and prioritized. In modern conflict, information moves before soldiers do. Beyond the military, global trade routes feel the pressure. Oil tankers pass through corridors watched by armed patrols. A single disruption can shake the global economy within hours. Markets are the first to sense danger. Currency values shift, oil prices climb, and defensive assets attract attention. The economic shadow of war arrives before the battlefield. Ordinary people notice unusual delays and security checks. Travelers find headlines growing darker. Uncertainty enters public life gradually, in delays and uneasy silence. The first major reveal: fighter squadrons launch at a pace that is no longer routine. They rise in coordinated formations, loaded for more than training. Quiet preparation becomes visible escalation. At remote bases, supply operations accelerate. Crates of equipment and ammunition move rapidly. A system built for deterrence is beginning to behave like a system preparing for impact. In radar rooms, every signal carries consequence. Fast-moving blips appear and disappear. The burden of error is immense when disaster is measured in minutes. Eyes stay fixed on screens. Diplomatic channels activate with urgency. Meetings are arranged behind closed doors. Every side wants to appear strong, but none reckless. Diplomacy works best when time exists. The public mood shifts. People start watching news closely. Fear spreads digitally and instantly. As uncertainty grows, so does the pressure on every government involved. In hidden rooms, cyber teams confront a different threat. Suspicious activity appears across sensitive systems. A digital strike can blind radar or disrupt cities without a single shot. Long-range bombers, built for strategic deterrence, are prepared with care. Their presence sends a message. Escalation has no safe ceiling. The meaning of the crisis changes. Beneath the surface, another layer of power moves. Submarines alter course in silence. Hidden and difficult to track, they shift the balance simply by being present. The crisis grows harder to contain. Continuity of government protocols stir. Secure facilities beneath ordinary buildings are staffed. Governments rarely activate such layers unless they fear sudden escalation. The warning becomes louder. Missile units transition to visible readiness. The line between warning and action is narrowing. The next hours will determine whether this is a terrifying warning or the opening chapter of war. The second phase of the 24 hours begins quietly but decisively. Across intelligence networks, the uncertainty of the first phase begins to fade. Patterns that were once suspicious now appear deliberate. Military assets are no longer simply repositioning, they are aligning. Satellite surveillance confirms that several nations have moved into synchronized readiness. Air corridors are being monitored more aggressively than ever before. Naval fleets continue adjusting their positions across strategic waters. And for the first time today, analysts begin writing reports using a phrase that changes everything: possible global escalation. Deep beneath reinforced structures, the atmosphere inside command centers grows heavier. Senior military planners begin reviewing scenarios that were never meant to leave classified archives. These are not ordinary contingency plans. They are the strategic frameworks designed for moments when regional conflict risks expanding into something much larger. Inside these rooms, time becomes the most valuable resource. Decisions must be calculated carefully, but hesitation can be just as dangerous. Every officer present understands the gravity of the moment, because if the crisis continues escalating, the next orders issued from these rooms could reshape the entire world. High above contested regions, surveillance aircraft begin expanding their reach. Long-range drones rise silently into the sky, carrying sensors capable of detecting movement hundreds of miles away. Their mission is simple: eliminate uncertainty. Every road, base, coastline, and air corridor must be monitored continuously. In modern conflict, knowledge often moves faster than weapons. The side that sees first gains the advantage. And right now, multiple nations are racing to see everything, because in the coming hours, one unexpected movement could trigger decisions that cannot be undone. On the ground, the scale of military movement continues to grow. Armored formations begin advancing toward forward operating zones. These are not small tactical deployments. Entire battalions move together with logistical precision. Fuel trucks, communications vehicles, and armored support units stretch for miles along highways and desert routes. The message such movement sends is unmistakable. When heavy armor begins moving at this scale, it signals preparation for scenarios far beyond border patrol. And now, multiple intelligence agencies are tracking similar movements in different parts of the world. Across the oceans, naval power continues to shift into position. Carrier strike groups begin tightening their defensive formations as aircraft launch for extended patrol missions. Destroyers activate layered missile defense systems. Submarine escorts slip silently into deeper waters nearby. A single aircraft carrier represents enormous military capability. But a fully activated carrier group represents something far more serious. It means the sea itself has become an operational theater, and once the oceans join a crisis, containing escalation becomes exponentially harder. Air defense networks now begin operating under full alert protocols. Radar systems sweep the sky continuously, watching for any unexpected movement. Operators track hundreds of aircraft simultaneously across crowded digital grids. Every unidentified signal must be investigated immediately. The margin for error becomes dangerously small during moments like this. A single misidentified flight could trigger a response that spreads beyond control. This is the invisible tension of modern warfare. machines searching for threats while humans struggle to avoid mistakes. While military systems move toward readiness, diplomacy races against time. Emergency meetings begin across international institutions. Envoys from rival nations sit across the same tables, searching for ways to slow the crisis. But every conversation now carries the weight of unfolding military movement. Diplomacy becomes harder when armies have already started preparing. Words that once sounded cautious now appear weak. Warnings meant to prevent escalation can easily sound like threats. And as these fragile negotiations unfold, events outside the meeting rooms continue accelerating. Markets across the world begin reacting faster than governments. Energy prices surge as traders anticipate potential supply disruptions. Shipping insurance costs begin climbing sharply. Major investors shift capital toward assets considered safe during instability. Financial systems are deeply sensitive to geopolitical tension. They respond instantly to risk, and the signals they send are now unmistakable. Global confidence is beginning to fracture. In parallel with military movements, another battlefield becomes increasingly active. Cyber defense teams detect waves of probing activity against critical infrastructure networks. Power grids, communication systems, and financial databases all become potential targets. These digital attacks rarely begin with obvious destruction. They begin with testing defenses, mapping vulnerabilities, and planting hidden access points. If a larger conflict erupts, such access could cripple entire cities without warning. And that possibility now forces governments to defend both physical borders and invisible networks at the same time. Then, the next signal appears, and this one cannot be ignored. Strategic bombers begin launching from long-range air bases. These aircraft exist for one purpose: deterrence through overwhelming capability. Their appearance in the sky sends a message to every rival watching satellite feeds. This crisis is no longer confined to regional military forces. Strategic weapons are now entering the equation. And once such weapons begin moving, the psychological balance of power changes instantly. Because everyone understands the same terrifying truth. If escalation continues from here, the world could cross a line that history has never seen before. As the crisis deepens, the global logistics machine begins moving at full capacity. Massive cargo aircraft land at remote bases carrying equipment meant for rapid deployment. Every pallet unloaded represents another step toward operational readiness. Fuel reserves, communication systems, and armored vehicles are distributed across forward locations. Military planners understand that speed can determine survival in the early stages of conflict. Delays during this phase could leave entire regions exposed. So the system accelerates without pause. And with every aircraft that touches the runway, the possibility of war grows harder to reverse. At sea, naval commanders begin implementing expanded operational zones. Warships move into carefully calculated formations designed for both defense and rapid response. Advanced radar systems monitor hundreds of miles of surrounding airspace. These ships are built to operate independently, yet in moments like this, they act as a coordinated network. Every movement across the water now carries strategic significance. Naval power controls shipping lanes, communication routes, and projection of force. And once fleets reach this level of readiness, turning them back becomes increasingly difficult. The ocean itself begins to feel like a chessboard of immense consequence. By the third phase of the crisis, uncertainty disappears completely. Across global intelligence networks, analysts confirm what many had feared from the beginning. This is no longer a regional standoff. Too many military systems are now moving simultaneously. Satellite surveillance shows fleets shifting position, air patrols expanding, and missile systems preparing. For the first time in decades, the possibility of direct confrontation between major powers becomes a real strategic concern. The world has entered the most dangerous hours of the crisis, and every system designed to prevent war is now being tested. Deep beneath reinforced facilities, strategic command centers activate their highest level of readiness. These are the rooms responsible for managing the most powerful weapons humanity has ever created. Inside them, silence carries enormous weight. Every officer present understands the magnitude of the moment. Their role is not simply to prepare for war. It is to prevent miscalculation during the most volatile situations imaginable. But tonight, even the systems designed to prevent catastrophe feel the pressure of unfolding events. Then a development appears that immediately captures global attention. Strategic stealth bombers begin launching. These aircraft rarely fly operational patrols unless tensions reach extraordinary levels. Their appearance sends a message. It signals that military planners are preparing for worst-case scenarios. The meaning is unmistakable. The crisis has entered a stage where deterrence becomes visible. Across the oceans, naval strike groups shift posture. Aircraft launch continuously from carrier decks to maintain full aerial surveillance. Destroyers activate defense networks. Together, these forces represent overwhelming naval power. Several of the world's largest fleets now operate in the same waters. On land, armored divisions begin moving with unprecedented scale. Convoys stretch for miles along highways. Satellite images reveal formations large enough to be seen from space. These forces are the backbone of modern warfare. When armies move at this scale, the world takes notice, because events can now escalate very quickly. While physical forces prepare, another battlefield ignites. Cyber warfare units detect coordinated attacks. Power grids, communication systems, and financial networks all become targets. Disabling systems is as effective as destroying them. Financial markets react instantly. Energy prices surge. Global stock markets experience sharp, frightening declines. Economic systems often sense danger before political leaders announce it. And tonight, the signals are unmistakable. Across cities, public awareness grows rapidly. Millions follow the crisis minute by minute as speculation fills social media. For many watching, the scale becomes difficult to comprehend. The idea of a global conflict suddenly feels frighteningly real. In response, emergency diplomatic talks begin. Representatives gather in a last attempt to slow the crisis. These negotiations carry enormous pressure. If diplomacy fails now, military momentum may become unstoppable. Then intelligence detects the most alarming development. Long-range missile systems transition into active readiness. These weapons can reach targets in minutes. Their preparation signals that military leaders are planning for the worst. The timeline of the crisis suddenly becomes terrifyingly short. Far beneath the ocean surface, silent forces begin repositioning. Nuclear submarines alter their patrol routes. These vessels are the most secretive assets in any military arsenal. Their location is rarely known even to allies, yet during moments like this, their presence carries enormous significance. Across continents, radar networks reach their highest state. Operators track hundreds of aircraft in crowded corridors. In moments like this, a single mistake carries enormous consequences. Their work ensures misunderstandings do not become catastrophes. In contested airspace, one encounter nearly ignites the crisis. Stealth fighters maneuver carefully while maintaining radar lock. For several tense minutes, the situation remains uncertain. Command centers monitor the encounter closely. Defensive missile systems move into readiness. Radar arrays sweep the sky. Interceptors are prepared to respond in seconds. Ground forces continue repositioning under darkness. Their destination remains classified, but analysts recognize the scale. In the digital realm, another wave of attacks begins probing networks. Security teams respond instantly to block intrusions. Political leaders now prepare to address their nations directly. These speeches carry enormous weight during uncertainty. Financial markets experience another violent shock. Oil prices surge. The financial system reacts faster than politics can. Public demonstrations begin appearing. Citizens call for restraint. The crowds reflect global anxiety about the crisis. Strategic bombers continue extended patrols. Their presence serves as a deterrent, but also increases the tension dramatically. Once strategic weapons begin moving, the stakes rise. Naval forces from several nations now operate in the same waters. The ocean becomes one of the most sensitive environments. Even a minor misunderstanding between fleets could escalate rapidly. At the United Nations, an emergency session begins. The chamber has witnessed many historic crises, but tonight feels intense. Inside strategic missile facilities, crews receive updated instructions. The orders emphasize readiness, but also extreme caution. Intelligence analysts begin mapping all known military movements. The resulting picture reveals a network of forces across continents. Millions watch the speeches of their leaders. Some messages emphasize strength, others caution. All acknowledge the seriousness. As the crisis deepens, diplomacy shifts to the UN. An emergency midnight session convenes as the most powerful nations take seats. Inside missile facilities, crews operate under strict readiness. Encrypted messages arrive, targeting consoles are reviewed. Deep beneath the oceans, submarines adjust patrol routes. Their location remains hidden, influencing strategic decisions across continents. From orbit, surveillance captures every significant movement. Analysts compare satellite imagery with radar data and intelligence. In capitals, leaders move into hardened facilities. These bunkers ensure governments can function even under catastrophic events. Suddenly, new activity appears. Fighter squadrons scramble at extraordinary speed. These flights represent the highest readiness. At sea, strike groups respond with immediate action. Destroyers tighten formations. The ocean now feels charged with strategic tension. The economic impact becomes impossible to ignore. Markets react violently. The world economy senses danger before the first shot. Millions follow unfolding events in real time. The possibility of global war enters public consciousness. The atmosphere is deeply emotional. Then, a new signal appears. Alert systems begin flashing. Analysts rush to understand, is it routine or the beginning of something irreversible? For 23 hours, the world has balanced on the edge of the unthinkable. Armies have moved. Missile systems have prepared. Diplomats have raced against time. Now everything depends on the next decision. The world will either step back or cross a line history can never erase. As the final phase of the 24 hours begins, exhaustion spreads through command centers across the planet. For nearly an entire day, leaders, analysts, and military planners have watched the crisis unfold minute by minute. The screens in front of them still glow with the same disturbing pattern. Aircraft patrols remain active. Naval fleets remain deployed. Missile systems remain on alert. The world has not stepped back from the edge, but it has not stepped over it either. Inside secure government facilities, the most important meetings of the crisis begin. World leaders gather with military commanders and intelligence chiefs. Each report presented carries enormous weight. They describe movements of forces, signals from rival governments, and potential risks. Every decision now must balance strength with restraint. Escalation could lead to confrontation. Hesitation could invite danger. And the responsibility for choosing the path forward now rests on only a few individuals. Above the clouds, fighter patrols continue without interruption. Pilots who began their missions hours earlier now rotate with fresh crews. The objective remains constant: maintain awareness and readiness. These aircraft represent both defense and deterrence. Their presence signals that nations are prepared to protect their airspace. Yet every patrol also carries tension, because crowded skies increase the possibility of encounters. And encounters during moments of crisis can change everything. At sea, naval forces continue their careful choreography. Aircraft carriers launch fighters to maintain continuous coverage over surrounding waters. Escort destroyers track radar signals across vast distances. Submarines remain hidden beneath the waves nearby. Together, these forces represent enormous strategic power. Yet their mission during this moment is not attack. It is presence. A presence meant to prevent sudden escalation rather than provoke it. At several sensitive borders, troops continue standing watch. Their vehicles remain ready for movement at a moment's notice. Orders emphasize discipline and restraint. Commanders understand how quickly misunderstandings can escalate. These soldiers are trained to react instantly if necessary. But tonight, their greatest task is patience. History often remembers dramatic battles, yet many crises are decided quietly in moments where soldiers simply hold their ground. The invisible digital battlefield remains active as well. Cyber defense teams continue protecting vital infrastructure networks. Their work prevents disruptions that could deepen confusion during the crisis. Communication systems, power grids, and transportation networks remain under constant monitoring. Modern nations depend on these systems every minute of the day. A digital disruption during a geopolitical crisis could amplify panic dramatically. That is why cyber defense has become one of the most important fronts of modern stability. And tonight, those digital guardians remain alert. Diplomatic efforts continue despite the immense pressure surrounding them. Negotiators meet once again in search of a path away from confrontation. Each side understands the consequences of failure. The discussions are slow, deliberate, and highly sensitive. Every word spoken must be carefully considered, because even a small misunderstanding could push the crisis further. Diplomacy now carries the final opportunity to stabilize the situation, and the world waits to see whether that opportunity will succeed. Financial markets begin the day with cautious stability. Investors watch geopolitical developments closely. Small changes in the crisis could ripple quickly through the global economy. Energy prices remain sensitive to every new report. Currency markets react to even subtle diplomatic signals. Economic systems are deeply connected to geopolitical confidence, and confidence remains fragile during moments like this. That fragility keeps the world watching closely. Across the world, ordinary people follow the unfolding events closely. Conversations in homes, workplaces, and public spaces revolve around the same question: will the crisis end peacefully? For many, the scale of the situation feels both distant and personal. They understand that decisions made far away could shape the future for everyone, yet life continues around them. Cities remain active, and hope quietly remains. Then, after hours of intense discussion, a possible breakthrough begins to emerge. Negotiators outline a framework designed to reduce military tension. It includes phased de-escalation measures and renewed diplomatic communication. The proposal does not solve every disagreement, but it offers something critically important: time. Time for military forces to stand down gradually. Time for political leaders to calm the crisis before irreversible actions occur. Even as diplomatic progress begins to appear, military patrols remain active across the skies. Fighter aircraft continue guarding critical air corridors. Commanders know that until agreements are fully confirmed, readiness must remain intact. Pilots maintain careful distance from rival patrol zones. Radar systems monitor every movement across contested airspace. The world is not yet safe from escalation, but for the first time in many hours, the tension begins to shift slightly. The possibility of de-escalation now feels real. Far out at sea, carrier strike groups maintain their defensive formations, yet commanders begin adjusting operational tempo. Aircraft patrol rotations are reduced slightly as the situation stabilizes. Warships remain vigilant, but their posture becomes less aggressive. The enormous naval power assembled during the crisis remains visible, but now its purpose begins shifting once again toward deterrence rather than confrontation. The oceans that nearly became battlegrounds slowly regain their uneasy calm. On the ground, armored units receive the first signals of strategic pause. Command posts relay instructions from higher command authorities. These orders emphasize caution and controlled repositioning. Heavy vehicles that once advanced toward potential engagement now halt and reassess. Soldiers remain ready, but their posture reflects a changing atmosphere. The machines of war do not disappear instantly, but the momentum pushing them forward begins to slow. After hours of intense negotiations, diplomats finally step forward to address the world. Their statements are cautious but significant. Agreements have been reached to reduce immediate military pressure across several regions. Communication channels between rival governments will remain open. Military forces will begin gradual stand-down procedures under close observation. These steps do not resolve every conflict, but they offer a path away from immediate confrontation. And that path now becomes the world's most valuable hope. Financial markets respond quickly to the diplomatic developments. Volatility begins to ease as investors regain confidence. Energy prices stabilize after hours of dramatic swings. Currency markets slowly recover from earlier shocks. The global economy remains cautious, but the immediate fear of catastrophic disruption begins to fade. Economic stability, like political stability, often returns gradually, and today that recovery begins with cautious optimism. Across the world, public reaction shifts noticeably. People continue watching the news closely, but the atmosphere begins to relax. Conversations move from fear toward cautious relief. For many citizens, the crisis felt frighteningly close to something much worse. The possibility of global war had briefly entered public imagination. Now that possibility begins to fade again into the background. Yet the memory of the tension remains. In cyber command centers, analysts observe a gradual reduction in hostile network activity. The digital probing that intensified during the crisis begins to slow. Security teams continue monitoring critical systems carefully. Even during de-escalation, cyber defenses cannot relax entirely. The modern digital world remains vulnerable to hidden threats. But tonight, the invisible battlefield also begins returning to stability. Another potential source of chaos quietly fades. Rapid response units that deployed during the crisis begin returning to their bases. Helicopters that once rushed troops to sensitive locations now bring them home. The urgency that defined the previous hours begins to dissipate. Yet commanders remain cautious. Every crisis teaches valuable lessons about preparedness and restraint. The troops who served on the front lines of tension now reflect on how close events came to changing history. Deep beneath the oceans, silent patrols begin concluding their extended missions. Submarines surface briefly to receive updated instructions. These vessels played an unseen role in maintaining strategic balance. Their presence reminded every nation involved that escalation carried immense consequences. Now they return quietly to their patrol routes. The ocean once again appears peaceful on the surface, yet the hidden forces beneath it remain vigilant. Radar networks continue monitoring global airspace, but the atmosphere inside control rooms changes noticeably. Operators who spent hours tracking potential threats now observe calmer skies. Aircraft patrol numbers gradually decrease. Emergency alerts disappear from the screens. The technology remains ready, but the tension surrounding it begins to ease. For the first time in many hours, the possibility of sudden confrontation fades. Civil defense systems also begin returning to normal operations. Hospitals reduce emergency readiness levels that were activated during the crisis. Medical teams resume their routine schedules. These institutions had prepared for worst-case scenarios that thankfully never arrived. Their readiness demonstrated the resilience of modern societies, and their relief now reflects the outcome everyone hoped for. Global trade routes begin returning to normal rhythms. Shipping companies resume regular schedules across major sea lanes. Cargo vessels that waited during the crisis now depart for international destinations. The machinery of global commerce begins moving again. Trade remains the lifeblood of modern civilization, and its recovery signals a broader return to stability. Air travel networks also return to normal patterns. Flights once rerouted around sensitive regions resume their original routes. Passengers continue journeys that were delayed during the crisis. Airports regain their familiar rhythm of arrivals and departures. The movement of people across borders represents something powerful. It reflects trust in a stable world. And today, that trust begins rebuilding. Inside command centers, analysts begin compiling the final reports of the 24-hour crisis. Every decision, movement, and communication is carefully documented. These records will become part of military and political history. Leaders study them to understand how close the world came to disaster, and more importantly, how it was avoided. Diplomatic agreements reached during the crisis are formally acknowledged. The documents signed represent compromise and restraint. They do not erase global tensions entirely, but they prove something essential. Even during moments of extreme pressure, dialogue can prevail. Nature itself appears unchanged by the political drama of the past day. Oceans continue moving, winds continue blowing, and the earth continues turning. Yet for humanity, the past 24 hours carried enormous significance. They reminded the world how fragile global stability can be. Life returns to its familiar rhythm across cities and communities. Children play without awareness of the tension that nearly reshaped history. Families gather in parks and streets just as they always have. These ordinary moments represent the true value of peace. From orbit, the Earth appears calm and unified. Borders and conflicts disappear beneath the planet's vast beauty. The crises that dominate headlines seem small from this distance. The analysts who watched every moment of the crisis finally step away from their stations. For them, the relief is profound. They witnessed how close events came to a dangerous path. After hours of relentless tension, the machines that once prepared for conflict begin returning home. Fighter aircraft descend from patrol routes that stretched across thousands of miles. Pilots guide their jets back onto runways where crews wait quietly beside the tarmac. The roar of engines fades into the calm of evening air. Only hours earlier, these aircraft stood ready for the possibility of war. Now they land as silent witnesses to a crisis that stopped just short of catastrophe. Their return marks a subtle but powerful shift. The skies that once felt crowded with danger begin slowly returning to peace. Across the oceans, naval forces also begin transitioning away from crisis posture. Carrier strike groups that assembled in tense formations now resume routine patrol patterns. Helicopters settle onto flight decks while sailors secure equipment for the journey ahead. The immense warships that once symbolized potential conflict now represent stability once more. Their mission returns to deterrence rather than confrontation. The sea, which briefly felt like the stage for a global conflict, slowly regains its quiet rhythm. Yet every sailor aboard knows how close events came to changing history forever. Along tense borders, armored units receive their final operational updates. Commanders confirm that forces will gradually reposition away from sensitive zones. Engines start once again, but this time the movement leads away from confrontation. Convoys that once advanced toward uncertainty now roll back toward their bases. Soldiers watch the horizon one last time before departing. For them, the crisis was never abstract. It was measured in radio messages, shifting orders, and quiet hours waiting for history to turn. Diplomats emerge from negotiations that lasted deep into the night. Their faces reveal exhaustion mixed with quiet relief. The agreements they reached may not solve every conflict between nations, but they succeeded in preventing the most dangerous outcome imaginable. Sometimes diplomacy is dramatic and visible. Other times, its greatest success is simply avoiding disaster. And on this day, that quiet success carries enormous meaning for the entire world. Across cities and towns around the globe, life continues with renewed appreciation. Most people will never know how close the world came to the brink of catastrophe. They return to their daily routines unaware of the countless decisions that protected their peace. Children laugh in parks. Families gather in the fading sunlight. These simple moments represent the true value of stability, and they remind humanity why avoiding war remains one of civilization's greatest responsibilities. For 24 hours, the world stood at the edge of a possibility that could have reshaped human history. Military machines moved across land, sea, air, and cyberspace. Diplomats raced against time to prevent a disaster no nation truly wanted, and billions of people unknowingly waited beneath the same fragile sky. In the end, restraint prevailed where fear could have taken control. The crisis passed, leaving behind an unforgettable reminder. Peace is never guaranteed, but when humanity chooses caution over destruction, the world continues turning just as it always has.